Welcome back in, everybody. Happy Friday, one and all. Gunner, this is when you know the storms are bad, and they're still really bad where I'm at. My dog rarely ever comes down during the show into my little studio here. She came down, and she's right at my feet, and she's a little shaky. I'm not gonna. I'll show her you later. I don't want to mess with her right now because she's not. The thunderstorms are getting to her a little bit, but that's when you know, because she rarely ever does this. That's when I know it's a little different today. That's for sure.
Yeah, we have to prepare because animals can hear thunder in a distance a lot sooner than we can.
Right.
So we always know something's coming. By my daughter's dog, which is a 75-pound dog, she starts clawing at the gate and whining, and she actually can rip through the gate opening. So we have to put things in front of the gate opening so she can't get through it.
Yeah.
And then, with my daughter working down the hall in her room, she has to keep the dog in her room with her, because if she puts it back in the bedroom, the dog will scratch the paint off the door. So, and the two little dogs, we have them in crates, and we put blankets over the crates to calm them down.
Yeah, it's life. It's life, but we're all good. So be careful out there again if you're in the field. I saw Duck mention it, how it was kind of like right over him, in South Philly. Let me pull it up for you right now.
I was just going to tell you, the sun. It's a little windy.
Yeah.
The sun is actually back out here where I am now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
Hey, Barbara Carroll wants to know, is Bravo actually good? She says, I've never been there.
Barbara Carroll, I promise you, I don't sponsor things that aren't legit. I'm telling you the truth. They're really, really good. I will seriously be going. I hit it like a couple times a week. It's awesome. And you really do have a lot of options. Like if it's not, their pizza's ridiculous, but if you're not just in the pizza, there's a lot of other stuff. Like they had this spaghetti bolognese that I tried the other week, spaghetti meat sauce, fancy way of saying it. And it was ridiculous. So it's really good. It's really good. I promise you. All right, Gunner. So let's talk some birds, man. All right. So storylines going in. Let me throw a few at you. You tell me which one kind of catches you, what sticks with you.
Okay.
All right. So the biggest storylines going into camp, young defense. This is kind of touches what you were talking about, but young defensive players, for the most part, you could throw Juergens and Steen in there too, but young defensive players or young players having to step up. New coaches and their style and schemes and demeanor. How much better can Hurts get? Can Derek Barnett finally live up to the hype of where he was drafted? I think it was 14th overall in 2017. Who emerges as the third receiver / backup tight end? Will there be a trade made? I'm just giving you a couple storylines. Which one sort of catches you? Which sticks with you?
I will say how quickly the young players on defense adapt and step up to speed, and that includes Jordan Davis, who had somewhat of a disappointing campaign. He didn't play as many snaps as we thought he would play, and then of course he got hurt twice. That hurt as well. A lot of people had much higher expectations of his physical prowess his rookie campaign. It really never panned out for the most part. What's Nakobe Dean going to look like in the middle of that defense? We know he has all the physical attributes. Now he's got to apply the trade at this level. He had a great learning year, his first year in the NFL, being able to sit back and watch and learn from veterans like TJ Edwards. Jalen Carter, I think everybody's salivating at the prospects of what he's going to look like in that D-line. And, of course, Nolan Smith as well. So I think it's how quickly will the young players adapt? Is Reed Blankenship that guy to hold down the back end, or is he only holding it until Sidney Brown gets up to speed? Mm-hmm. So you got a lot of young player question marks about this defense. You've got enough veteran nucleus to hold it down, but these other 4 or 5 guys have got to step up to make the whole thing work. And so I think for me, that's the biggest storyline in terms of how will it look once it's all meshed together.
Yeah, I think that's huge because there's so many. There's such a volume of them. Davis, Carter, interior, Nolan Smith. Does Keely Ringo, who we never really talk about, he's still the lone unsigned guy, I think, too. Will he get any kind of run? How will they utilize Nolan Smith? I know we had Jeff Mosher on a couple days ago, and that caused a lot of stir on social media when he didn't necessarily draw a comp with Fred Warner saying Nolan Smith's Fred Warner. He was saying they may use him the way that the 49ers use Fred Warner.
Yeah, see, the way that quote was put out there kind of misquoted what Jeff was saying. Yeah. And a lot of people, of course, as social media does, took it the wrong way, the way Jeff was saying. And Jeff even texted me and said, D-Gun, I was kind of misquoted. I said, I know, man. And no matter what we do, he goes, I don't really care. He said, but I was kind of misquoted here. And I'm like,
yeah.
But, he was just making a comparison that the young man has the capability of doing some things that a proven Pro Bowler has been doing. It didn't come out that way when it was worded, but, we understood what Jeff was saying.
Right.
And he does. The talent is endless in terms of what it could look like. But you got to see it, because for as many success stories as we see, we also know there are stories that range from success, mediocre to failure. And we got to wait and see what it looks like. Plain and simple.
Yeah. And look, and I think I led into the question. I was the one who asked them. Basically my point was I started going back and watching Nolan Smith tape at Georgia, and he's not just a one-trick pony in terms of rushing the quarterback. He's
right.
For a little bit of an undersized guy, he's very good against the run. So I'm just saying, I don't know that he has to be off the field in any kind of run situation. Anyway, but yeah, I think that's fascinating. I also think the Hurts thing is fascinating too. Like, the guy was the runner-up MVP to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he had that kind of year.
Right.
But what can we expect in terms of the growth from going into year 4? Like, what can we expect from that, from him in terms of getting better? What does it look like? How do you define it?
Yeah, I'm sure Hurts and Nick Sirianni have a blueprint in terms of what they want from him to take his game to another level. For me, he could play exactly the same way he played in 2022 and will still be good enough to get this team to a Super Bowl. I understand he didn't throw for 4,000 yards. He didn't throw for 30 touchdowns, but he accounted for 35 touchdowns. He turned the ball over very infrequently.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of things a young quarterback in his second year still don't do in terms of being more consistent at such an accelerated rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the way this offense is structured and asking him to run it, I think the only thing is I think he can get better by running less.
Yeah.
In that regard. I want to see him protect his body more, and that's on the coach and on the player. Now, we know there's times he's just going to have to take off and run. And there's times, depending on defensive alignments, a quarterback run is going to be called for him. But I don't want to see my quarterback carrying the ball 165 times down the field. I really don't.
And I think you're right. Like that, it's not just on Jalen, it's on the coaches sometimes to take it out of his hands and just call a straight running play or whatever. I'd like to see him run a little bit less. I don't want to take away from who he is, but I would definitely like to see him run a little bit less. I think there's still, I think he could still be a little bit more accurate with some of his throws in terms of leading guys. I'm getting very nitpicky. I know that. Okay. But I think he get better at that. I think there's always ways to just slow the game down even more for yourself, where you anticipate what's coming. You're 10 steps ahead of what the defense is doing. The great ones always tell you how much it slows down. I think it slowed down for him a lot last year, but I think the game can always slow down more for you while you're out there. Keep in mind, this guy's 24, 25 years old. Yep. If you talk to any of the greats and you said to them, compare yourself at 30 to what you were at 24 and 25, they'll tell you, I was a completely different quarterback. The physical tools are there, but what you're seeing, what you're processing is totally different. And that goes for everybody at that age. I mean, there are a few guys, like some guys come on the scene and they're just freaks. Patrick Mahomes was just a freak. I mean, they're just, some guys are different, but for the most part, you get better as you age in this game. And then there's that fine line between when does your body start to go down a little bit and you still have the brain, but the body's just not there. I think we're right in a sweet spot for Jalen Hurts. I really do. I think we're in a really good place.
The best of the best struggle before they find their niche. Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, they all struggle. Russell Wilson was in that category of a Jalen Hurts. He started as a rookie. He went through some growing pains that first year, but then the second year is when he really started to take off. There's very few quarterbacks that make that type of progression. People seem to think this kid Bryce Young is going to be one of those rarities where he's going to find his niche before the season is over, keep improving, and the next year he will take off. He's got to go through growing pains. Mm-hmm. You're still playing the game of football, but you're playing at a much different level. You're looking at more complex schemes on both sides of the football when you play it at this level. There's more mind games at this level than there are at the college level. So the natural progression, as Jalen went through the first year, going 9-8, and look at how this team took off once they got him in that second year, opened up the playbook, played more to his strengths the second year. Look at the quarterback he became. As you just said, he was the runner-up to Patrick Mahomes, who is the best of the best in the league. He helped his team get to a Super Bowl, okay? He was a very integral part to this team getting to a Super Bowl. There are a lot of young quarterbacks that take 3 to 4 years before they find their niche in the National Football League. He found his in the second year as a starter. Mm-hmm. I think if you're being honest and took an anonymous survey, there's at least 10 teams, a minimum 10 teams in the National Football League said, I'd take Jalen Hurts as my starting quarterback right now.
Oh, please. I think it'd be more.
I just said minimum. Yeah.
No, but Derek, I get your point. Point well taken. That might be a fun little exercise for us, one of these shows. Look at you. Look at you just spitting content as we go through this. The other interesting thing too is I think all of these, you could kind of throw in there as certainly interesting. But will there be a trade made? Like if we're sitting there and look, we don't have access to the day-to-day. We do the media, we get 10, 15 minutes and then we're kicked off. But the coaches and Howie and everybody are looking at this every day in camp. I truly believe if they're looking at safety or they're looking at linebacker, perhaps somewhere else, I don't know, maybe third wide receiver, and they don't like what they're seeing, they won't hesitate to pull the trigger. I know that. I mean, and keep in mind too, Derek, they have a lot of draft picks next year. The sort of the opposite of the way this year was setting up, where they didn't have a lot. They're with all those compensatory picks, they're going to be able to deal from a position of power with picks.
I don't know about a trade, but I do believe, and I would bet on it, that Howie Roseman is going to make some kind of move. He's going to find some kind of veteran free agent to bring in and make whatever the deficiency is look that much deeper in terms of depth and hopefully versatility and help. Howie does not sit still. Howie's always got the wheel spinning. He's like it's like the hamster on the wheel. It's nonstop. The wheel is always spinning. He's going to find something. It's just a matter of what they need at that particular time. We all knew they needed help at the D line, and he went out and got not one but two when the season had started. There's enough veterans out there, wide receiver wise, that are still looking for jobs that will probably still be on the open market that Howie can choose from once they get to training camp or get to the regular season. So absolutely, I think there's another move coming. To what degree remains to be seen. I think Howie will stockpile those draft picks next year to move up positioning wise in next year's draft. You may have fewer. There's no way they're going to pick 12, 13 players. They're going to
no chance.
They're try to package those and move up higher in the third round, maybe move up higher in the second round.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Howie does. And that's what I expect him to do.
And that's the fascinating thing about the draft. You and I we were doing shows all day long on draft day, right? And leading up to beforehand as the first round played out. And I don't think either of us thought there was any chance they were going to make that pick at 30. Right. But yeah. because Nolan Smith starts falling, everything changes and you scrap it. That's the great thing, about the draft. It's what keeps us so fascinated and interested in it, for sure. So, all right, let me hit you with this one. Do you think, at least right now, that the guys kind of ties into this, that they're satisfied with the third wideout?
No.
That they're okay with it either being Quez or Alameda Zacchaeus? Man, that's a mouthful, by the way, that name. That is a mouthful.
Well, they were satisfied with it last year when they brought Zach Pascal in here.
Yeah.
But I think this year, that's one of the positions they are closely monitoring. Number one, to see if Quez is true to his word in terms of he's going to prove everybody wrong And number two, if this 5'8" receiver they brought in can fit the bill of what they need from that slot position. I think it's one of the few positions they're going to watch very closely and monitor. And of course, monitor what's out there that could possibly fit what they need if in-house people don't live up to expectations. Forrest Hill is right. I believe as we sit here now, both Alameda and Quez make the team, but I don't know if it necessarily both will finish with this team when it's all said and done.
They are very different. Quez is a
Yes.
burner, and Zacchaeus is a slot guy. He's in possession. Yep.
So I think that position and the right guard position are two of the positions that'll be closely monitored throughout training camp and early on in the regular season.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Is there what else would you say jumps out at you? Either of what I threw at you, Barnett maybe, or anything else on your own that you're looking at here. And all right, this one's fascinating. Like I think the coaching thing's fascinating because we just assume, Desai is going to be a Gannon clone. I'm not going to say that about him. I don't know.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
The only thing is he's already said that he doesn't blitz much, which Gannon did not believe in as well.
Yep.
But in terms of how they attack and set their alignments, I expect it to be different from what we saw in the past. I think the one other area, of course, which will be a hot topic of discussion, will be the safety opposite Terrell Edmonds. Between Reed Blankenship, everybody's clamoring for Sidney Brown to step in there. I've seen some of the chats. He's gonna be the starter by the third preseason game, maybe. I think Reed Blankenship has a wealth of experience ahead of him and will be given every opportunity to solidify that position. But they didn't draft this kid Sidney Brown for no reason. The fact that he was still on the board when he was amazing in itself. But I do think Sidney, once he gets up to speed and understands the concepts and what he's supposed to be, what his job description is, will push Reed Blankenship. I don't know if he'll be able to push him out, but I think he'll slowly integrate him with the minimum amount of reps. And depending on how he excels, he could be playing 50-50 in terms of snap count along with Reed Blankenship. Yeah, there's a possibility he could exceed Blankenship, but again, we don't know. We don't know what Matt Patricia and Sean Desai will ask of him and how they want him to utilize his physical attributes. Could be down and distance situation as well. Hard to tell.
Yeah. I think of obviously Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, obviously those guys are looking to get time and we're going to be keeping a close eye, but it really feels like too, Steen and Sidney Brown are guys that could really push this thing. I think they want Juergens to be the guy going in. I think they would prefer Blankenship simply because he has experience, but you can't tell me any of that's a lock. Any of that is locked in stone. I think that's up in the air, very much up in the air, at least maybe it may not be until week 3 or 4 or something, but that's very much up in the air.
I wonder, do they really want Juergens to take that right guard spot, or do they like him better in the backup role behind Kelsey as an insurance policy? This dude Steen is a mountain of a man at 6'6".
Yeah.
And when you look at this offensive line as it is, outside of Kelsey, who's considered the little guy on the offensive line, these guys all range from 6'5" to 6'8", and all 315 and above. Mulata's pushing 350.
What did Lane call them?
Call him Jurassic Park.
That's awesome. Hey, by the way, and I'm sorry I forgot this. This is good news, Gunner. We're excited. Next week, in fact, I was going to confirm your text here. Tuesday, right? Tuesday. We're going to have Tuesday at 12:30. Brandon Graham, BG will be joining the show.
I tried to get him on today, but when he called me, he was in his car driving. He's headed to a golf tournament that he's playing in, some kind of charity golf event. And then Monday, he's finishing up his classes. He will finish up his bachelor's courses for his bachelor's degree. Technically, he's finished up, but he still has some final work to turn in on Monday.
Okay.
And then, of course, he's got the summer babysitting duty. So he kept saying, what time? First, he said Wednesday. I said, okay. He goes, no, maybe Tuesday. And he starts going over his calendar as he's driving. He goes, let's see. The kids have a dentist appointment from 1:30 to 3:30. I said, we can do Wednesday. He goes, what about 12:30? I said, are you going to have enough time on Tuesday to get off the air at 1 o'clock and get your kids to the dentist? I said, how far do you live from the dentist? I'm only 15 minutes. I said, okay, it's on you. Because if you're late, your wife's going to get on you. If
Yep.
you're late taking the kids to the dentist. So,
but he is a real dad. Not that, he's not one of these guys who like is handing off to the maid or, whatever. He's a real hands-on. We've had him on before, Derek, where he's driving the kids to school and stuff. So he's, anyway, or picking them up.
Or a kid pops up while he's on the air.
Yes. Yeah.
No, he is Mr. Parent. No question about that. Yeah. He firmly believes in hands-on. And he's a great dad. Great dad to his kids. So
not a surprise, that he's a great dad. Lastly, because you have been, I would say, optimistic.
Yep.
Regarding Derek Barnett.
Yes.
And what he could, still bring to the table. I know a lot of Eagles fans have written him off.
Right.
Does he make the club in your estimation?
I think he does. I really do. And I say that because I think his situation is very similar to what Brandon Graham went through. And Brandon Graham has been one of his mentors. Brandon Graham, high draft pick, went through the injury bug. People were raining down negativities towards him to the point we joke about it all the time. He was blocking people left and right on social media. It kind of got to him, hurt his feelings a bit. Yep. But kudos to the organization because they never gave up on him. They saw a potential in him that we couldn't see because we were blinded by the fact that here's a guy who was this high draft pick who never lived up to expectations and couldn't stay on the field. Okay. I look at a Barnett, really started to get better in 19, even though he still had the mental mistakes, started to get better in 2019, 2020. He had 12 quarterback sacks over those 2 years. Now dipped down to only 2 sacks in 2021 and got notoriety for more mental gaffes than anything else, missed all of 22. I do believe that the Eagles will not turn their back on him based on – when you look at what they have right now, Brandon Graham at one edge, Josh Sweat at the other edge. And then you have Hassan Reddick, who plays outside as well. I don't think we talk about Jalen Carter's here. Okay, I get it. We talk about some of the speed that they have here. Derek Barnett, when he's on point, he's got one of the best bends in the game in terms of getting under these Jurassic Park type tackles in the National Football League.
I love that term.
I don't see in any way, shape, or form that they, unless somebody out there that's desperate enough to make a trade for him, even though he's coming off that ACL, it cost him the whole season. I don't think the Eagles are in a hurry to get rid of him. I do believe. Let's face it. We talk about it all the time. From the front office to the players, there's certain people in the organization they refuse to give up on when they hear the public banter elsewhere. Howie Roseman, on down to Derek Barnett. So yes, I believe Derek Barnett will still be a part of this team in 23.
Okay. Interesting discussion there. As I mentioned, we'll come back. We'll do some Phillies. We'll get into father-son duos based off of Father's Day, and a lot of stuff in the NFL. Man, Antonio Brown once again in the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Jeez.
A more unhappy running back. Stop me if you've heard this before. Not just a running back. One organization unhappy with one of their wide receivers, and Derek and I will do our June 16th power rankings 1 through 10 in the NFL. So we'll do all those kind of things when we come back. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Time to tell you about my man, Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. Jim's the best in the business. I can tell you that, and there is no question about it. I can tell you from personal experience because Jim is someone I trust with my hard-earned work and hard-earned money. Whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you might have a small business, you're trying to get your employee benefits off the ground. It's another resource that Jim can help you with. For me personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. I also love the fact that I can reach out to Jim, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, and he'll get right back to you with any questions that you have. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You could also email him, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.